This week on thERINpy, it's emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert Amber Romaniuk. Amber's the host of the No Sugarcoating podcast, and she helps women regain their energy, balance their digestion, and build a healthy relationship with food. Amber overcame her own emotional eating after gaining and losing more than 1,000 pounds, spending over $50,000 on binge foods, and spending 5 years balancing her hormones and digestion. After hitting a breaking point in her 20s, Amber transformed her relationship with food through energetic healing, self love, and truly listening to what her body needed. And now she helps women around the world through her body freedom method. Ultimately, Amber was able to dismantle her deep limiting beliefs and behaviors, keeping her stuck in the same looping patterns. And today, Amber has 12 years of experience helping high achieving women create a level of body confidence, intuition, and optimal health through powerful mindset healing, self care, and overcoming self sabotage with food. I struggled with food and body image and eating disorders for 20 ish years. Kind of got it together in my late 30s. I have so much in common with Amber, and I wonder now why I still battle inflammation. I stopped drinking. I thought the puff would go down. It has not. I have questions. I want to know about histamines. I want to talk more about inflammation and how maybe I did this to myself. And many women have done this to themselves after years of disordered eating. Please do me a favor and hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this episode. That way you'll get an alert every time a new therapy drops. Maybe even take 2 seconds to leave me a quick review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If this episode resonates with you, if you learn something, please consider sending it to a friend, sharing it on social media. Make sure you're following thERINpy with Erin Washington on Instagram or follow my account. I am Erin Washington. You can pitch me guests or topics you want me to cover. And now your weekly dose of thERINpy with Amber Romaniuk. I want to start with your story because as we talked before we started recording, we have an eerily similar past. Sadly, talk about growing up and your history with disordered eating.
Yeah. So when I'm the only child. And when I was 5, it was my first day taking the bus to school. And that was the first, just deeply traumatic moment that I didn't realize was until I started healing, which was I got on the bus. The older boys started to call me fat and ugly, and then the whole bus made fun of me. And I internalized fat and ugly identity for the next 20 years of my life because you think, well, if strangers are saying it, it must be true. And you don't realize the significant impact those kinds of experiences have on your nervous system and are stored in your body. And so you just go along feeling insecure and you don't understand why. And then I think one of the biggest things aside from that, and then feeling very shy and ashamed of my body was my mom. And she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis before I was born. And so witnessing her decline my entire life, but especially in my childhood and not really knowing how to cope or understanding. It's like your mom is your idol when you're a kid and your whole life. And to witness her constantly belittling herself, shaming herself, hating her body, the symptoms that would come up, like her losing control of her bowels in the shower, and I'd walk in and she'd be crying. And it's just like horrifying moments that you're just like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? I don't understand. And it just, I held it all in. I compartmentalized it because I didn't want to be a burden. So that whole
Mhm.
I don't want to be a burden mentality came in, and I'll just hold it all in. And I don't want to stress anyone out. And so you just start building all this emotion up inside of you. And I was unconsciously emotionally eating from a young age. And then you hit your teens and you start observing Hollywood and the media. And I grew up in the Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears era, and just the tiny little
Same.
waists and the low rise jeans. And you're like,
Yes.
how come I don't look like that? Why is my stomach not that flat? There's something wrong with me, but they don't tell you about the photoshopping and all the other things. And you just think there's something wrong with you. Right. And then the
Yes.
diets start, and I'm restricting. I literally went when I was 11 and used my allowance to buy the South Beach diet book. And then I started binge eating and fell deep into food addiction in my early 20s. I had a breakup, and then I was so upset I could barely eat. And then I lost weight really quickly. Of course, thought that would fix everything. It didn't. It never does. And I was like, well, what's the point? It's not fixing anything. So I started binge eating, and I would binge until I was so full. I was sick. I went through a period of binging and purging, gained 80 pounds in 4 months, then was the heaviest I had ever been, and didn't know that I was in binge eating or emotional eating or had a food addiction for a couple of years. It was just like, I have no idea all of a sudden why I'm losing control with food all the time. You just get so caught up in it and start revolving your whole world around it, controlling food, losing control with food, trying to control the number on the scale, chasing all the numbers. Like all of it just became literally what consumed my life. And I got to the point where I started to build awareness that I was binge eating. I stopped purging. I promised myself, if you're going to binge, you have to own it and not just go and like not take ownership and get rid of it and think that's going to fix everything. So I stopped purging when I promised myself I would own it. Um, but the interesting thing about these behaviors is you get into this denial state sometimes. Like I was like, this is so bad what I'm doing. But my ego, that inner critic, was like, it's not a big deal. It's like food's your friend. It's what you know. You love it when you first start doing it, right? And so that denial really kept me in this comfort zone of suffering and familiarity with the binge eating and the chasing the numbers and all this stuff. And it's when I had my low point moment when I really was laying on the couch in pain, had just finished a binge. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to make it to 30 if I keep up this level of destruction with myself. Not just the binge eating, the restriction, but the negative self talk, the self hatred, the self loathing. Like it all significantly impacts you to a cellular emotional level. And so I'd throw the food in the garbage, promise I would never go dig through the garbage to eat the food. And then that night, of course, my food settled. And my ego was like, well, if this is the last time you're going to do this, the all or nothing mentality, you might as well go dig through the garbage and eat the cookies. And so I went, grabbed my garbage, dug through, grabbed the cookies, ate them, threw them in the dumpster in the back alley, went out and ate, grabbed them out of there and ate them again. And I was just like, who am I? How is this my life? I literally just ate out of the dumpster in my back alley. Like, this is a serious problem. I've got to figure this out. And so that low point really crushed the denial that it wasn't a big deal. And it really made me realize I'm going to have to get uncomfortable and get out of this comfort zone of suffering if I really want to heal. And I'm going to have to figure this out. And that's what prompted me onto my healing journey, which had many layers and levels. You know, realizing that I was terrified to feel my emotions was a huge awareness. And then going, okay, I'm going to just set a timer for 30 seconds and start feeling. Um, Starting to realize some of the foods I'm eating, literally, I start eating them and I can't stop, and starting to learn about processed sugar and monosodium glutamate. And there's certain ingredients that they put in food to make you addicted and increase your appetite and literally give you a massive dopamine pleasure high. I'm going, wow, like this is why would the food industry ever do that? And like learning about, food industry and all the sneaky things they're doing to make people addicted to food. But when I started to change the way that I ate and started to improve my nutrition, and I still wanted to binge on like 10 bananas and a whole jar of peanut butter, or like 10 gluten free muffins that I baked
Oh my
myself,
God.
I'm like, okay, yeah, like there's something deeper. So it was like, get really honest with myself. I'm terrified to feel my emotions. I hate myself. And I always go delete because I don't anymore. Obviously, I have no healthy ways to cope. I don't know what's triggering me. So how am I supposed to catch it? And my negative self-talk was just so loud. And so I started chipping away at those things, like the feeling the emotions, catching triggers and writing them down, whether I could catch it before the binge or afterward. I would spend some time and go, okay, what happened? Why did I do this? Start to forgive myself. Because if I didn't and I held a grudge, it would just re-trigger me. Trying different self-care modalities, learning about nervous system regulation, right? And okay, I'm going to start breath work, tapping, journaling, getting outside nature, reading self-help books and learning about the mind and how powerful the mind is, and catching negative self-talk, shifting to positive, a lot of affirmations, a lot of mirror work, a lot of, it felt so fraudulent in the beginning because your brain rejects it, but eventually it all started to click. And that work helped me stop binge eating and fully overcome the behaviors and not have food fears and be afraid to have certain foods in the house or lose control. Like it really helped me build this peace with food and my body and build self love. And that's what really inspired me to start my business. And then I spent like 5 years balancing my hormones and my gut. And of course, you're always healing and evolving and you're fine tuning. And then, come to really have this aha moment that histamine reactions that started for me while I was binge eating, okay, why are they still here? I haven't binged in like 15 years. Like, I don't understand. And understanding, going deeper, hypervigilance, inflammation, we'll talk about all this today, but it's just you peel back the layers and it just the next ones reveal themselves, but it's so powerful because it helps you understand yourself on a level that you can't unless you go on this journey. And that's one of the biggest gifts other than self-love that I was able to create for myself was the level of attunement I have with my body, my mind, my intuition, on a physical, mental, emotional, energetic, spiritual level. I'm so grateful for because I can feel when something's off or when there's something to dig deeper into. And then I take the steps and then you learn and then you can heal and you can go to that next level. So that's the journey.
It's our journey, Amber. Like I'm just sitting here nodding at everything that you're saying. We are so similar. And then it's like you're probably driven to do this work because you're like, oh, I figured it out. And then you have to help the women
Yeah,
that lived how you
totally.
used to live. There are so many things that jumped out. I knew you were going to be a firstborn or an only child because I swear, it's like nature versus nurture. Some kids are predisposed to be like this. I had three younger sisters. Nobody struggled like I did. I struggled with eating disorders, perfectionism, people pleasing. They were chill. They grew up in the same household with the same parents. My rock bottom moment, I was out in a snowstorm when I was living in DC and it was snowing. This one convenience store is open. And I had this moment like, you're the only person out here, like a crack addict going to get my fix to go get processed foods that I could binge and purge on.
Yeah.
And I still kept doing it. But I was so like aware of like, this is a problem. Look around you. What are you doing? But then I would say too, like it's been 15 years since I did the behaviors and it would be like, this is bullshit. I don't abuse my body anymore. Why am I still bloated and puffy? And I wasn't making the
Hmm.
connection of like nervous system because I still live in a very heightened state and I'm super hyper vigilant and I'm going through a divorce and the stress and the cortisol is all there. But I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I stopped drinking. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to be puffy because I was not making the connection that you make with like inflammation and histamines and learning
Hmm.
from your story and your show that like maybe we brought this on ourselves by years, decades of disordered eating and throwing off our whole body. It's like we're just still inflamed from that. And I don't know if this is something that we can reverse, but I am so
Yeah.
happy that you're here because I had the same binge purge cycle. Mine evolved from anorexia to exercise bulimia to actual bulimia. And I struggled for like 10 years and then really thought that I was doing it the right way. That was the other thing that came up when you talked about the low fat cookies. I was like, I
Hmm.
don't binge and purge anymore, but now I eat low fat, no carb uh, cookies. And I would rationalize when I ate the entire sleeve that they were low fat and I would
Yeah.
never be satisfied because they were like processed garbage, not
Yeah.
actual food. But now it's like when I tell my story, my fish taco story. If there's fish tacos on the menu, I'm getting it with all the things. How I
Hmm.
used to do it is I would say, fish tacos, but just the fish in a tortilla, no cheese, no sour cream, avocado on the side. I would eat them all because I would rationalize that they were fat free. I
Right.
would leave completely unsatisfied because I ate fish in a tortilla. And I would
Yeah.
leave eating more because I ate them all, rationalized that it was fat free and not satisfied. Now I eat them exactly how they come with sour cream and the
Hmm.
cheese. I check in after one, usually still hungry. I'll eat a second one. I'm satisfied because I got actual food and what my brain wanted. I take the others home and it's like I now enjoy food and I've been able to maintain a healthy weight. It's not about a weight, it's not about a
Yeah.
physical ideal, but it's the irony of when all I lived for was this lower weight and restricted, I never saw that body. And when I
No.
finally just listened to my body, when you binge and purge, just the opposite of listening, you are numb and just vacant and nothing is there. It now listening. Am I just eating because there's food on the plate? Am I just eating in front of Netflix or am I actually satisfied? Taking that
Yeah.
1 second, it's everything. I don't punish my body with exercise anymore. I walk and it's
Yeah.
like more
Same.
like for a mental. And I was
Hmm.
running Amber for PRs. For what? I wasn't training for a
Yeah.
marathon, but I'd be like, oh, 9 minute mile. For what?
Yeah.
I would just like
Same.
drive and push. And when I was in that mess, I was in a heavier body. And again,
Yeah.
not just, I'm just saying it to say that's not, if you are living that way in pursuit of a physical ideal, I can tell you I never found it through restriction, deprivation, and overexercise.
Me either. I only gained weight and just felt horrible. Yeah.
Yes?
And
Okay.
guess what? Yeah, yeah. When I stopped binge eating, I gained 80 pounds because of the hormone imbalances and the insulin resistance, the hypothyroid I created, the high cortisol, I had estrogen dominance, no progesterone. I was 24, and my inflammation was through the roof. My gut was a mess. And I was exercising 5 days a week still in the morning because I had a limiting belief of I need to exercise to lose weight and keep it off, even though I'm gaining
Yes.
weight. So I had to challenge that because I didn't still fully trust my body. My body's like, please just stop the gym for a while. I need rest. Just walk, rest, nap, like stretch. And so I'm like, well, I have nothing to lose at this point because I've gained
Yes.
80 pounds. So I'm going to just stop and literally focusing on nervous system regulation, hormones, resting, and having that balance with food, just like you. It fell off. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually how it's supposed to happen. It's about safety. And it was so liberating because your body will stay at your natural set point when she feels safe and you actually listen to her. And it's so much freaking easier than all the marketing and all the BS that is shoved down our throats.
Oh my God, I freaking love when I have a professional come on and say it. I'm always like, your body doesn't trust you. Your body is like,
Yeah.
should we burn this or is this bitch about to work out a
Yeah.
second time? If
Right.
you are
Third
living in
time.
that stress, your body, yes, your body has to trust you. And I always say,
Yeah.
I'm like, my body has gone to a set point that I've maintained through 2 pregnancies and for 10 years, and I'm not trying. I listen to my body.
Mm,
Like I said, I wouldn't take a day off. Like I was never
me
miss a
either.
Monday. Now it's like, you listen, maybe like I'll sit in the sauna. Like I just need
Yeah.
slower. And
Yeah.
it's ingrained that we need to push and sweat. And for me, when you just said, well, I've tried everything else, a trainer at my gym, I couldn't lose weight and I was like 20 pounds heavier, really working out every day. And he's like, you're so frustrated. And I told him it's because I do everything right. I barely eat. I just eat salads and I do cardio every day and I can't lose weight. And he very simply was like, you need to eat more. Like your body doesn't have enough
Hmm.
fuel. And I
Yeah.
had to be like convinced in my mind, I'm like, eat more to lose weight and get this off was such a mind F. Like you're
Yeah.
joking, you're trying to sabotage me. But I tried
Yeah.
everything else. So I started eating all the time. And my body was like, oh, we can burn because she's going to refuel. And it was so hard for me
Yeah.
to trust. But it changed my body. And now, like you said, when you get to a set point, it is easy to maintain. It's easier than what I was living as trying to
Oh,
achieve
yeah.
the physical ideal. And like, I don't think women trust that. So for you to say you finally
No.
just listened to your body and you rested and the weight fell off, you're not in that high stress cortisol. And I'm still stressed. I'm co parenting right now. I'm going through divorce
Hmm.
mediation
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
moving. So there are regular things, but
Yeah.
my nervous system, I don't feel I'm not stressed about the same thing. I don't even think about like calories. I used to pull up
Yeah.
menus and see if there was something that I would
Right.
eat. It's none of that noise, but like my nervous system is on high alert still in the
Yeah.
connection between like inflammation and your nervous system really spoke to me. And I don't know if that's something that and I hear you. It's like maybe my body just needs breath work. Like I'm not there yet. Like I just sit there and do my
Yeah.
grocery list and I'm like, think of all the things that you could be doing because of my hypervigilance and like high efficient high efficiency that I'm like, this is a waste of time. So maybe I haven't bought in to like really regulating my nervous system, but is that
Hmm.
something that can be taught or for someone
Oh, yeah.
like a million miles an hour still like me? I don't have the food noise, but it's
Hmm.
probably my nervous system that's keeping me. I feel like my body is still inflamed and I can't
Yeah.
find the answer.
So part of it is that, the hypervigilance and you're processing a lot right now. So obviously grace and compassion. And then it's like, however, if you're in a state where to me, this is more the ego mind. I call it the inner critic is like, yeah, whatever. There's no value in that. Make the list, get to your next to do. So there's still you give your power away to your ego and your ego is going, oh yeah, I got her with this. Like she still listens to me. I still have control. And so part of it is there's still some level of discomfort that your nervous system and amygdala is registering with just going more into your feminine energy and just being and doing some breath or just relaxing or going out and getting daylight and just connecting with nature and there's an opportunity for you because as we know the bodies are so wise and she's like, oh my gosh, Erin, I just want you to connect with me more. I want you to feel this next level of rest and digest and thriving in regulation, even through your divorce and through what's going on. And we can create that through small pockets of breath or tapping or getting outside and getting your feet in the grass or just taking a moment, putting your hand on your heart and closing your eyes and going like, what do I need right now? Truly, not what my ego wants and what my to-do hypervigilant errant wants. What does my body really want right now? And then actually listening, because one of the reasons we'll stay in that inflamed state is because to some essence, even though you're giving your body these other things, she's like, she's not fully listening to me. So how can I get her
Yes.
attention? Well, through the inflammation, through the histamine, through the hormone imbalances or whatever, right? And for some women, they get their attention through really horrific pain. Some it's the weight. It's like, what is going to get your attention? And it makes a lot of sense because with inflammation, obviously, as we know with inflammation, like short-term inflammation helps heal the body, but when we get long-term chronic inflammation, this is the stuff that we want to start paying attention to. And so right away, I think, okay, like where are your cortisol levels at? Because most women that are dealing with some form of chronic inflammation are usually dealing with a heightened level of cortisol. Higher the cortisol gets or the longer it's elevated, the more activated the immune system gets. And then we get puffy, we get swollen, we get pain, whatever your inflammation signs look like. Um, and then often I see a lot of women who have high cortisol with low progesterone. And one of the reasons for this is often women are struggling to find a balance of masculine and feminine energy. They're really good at doing and taking action and getting everything done and being it all for everyone else. Um, but they're lacking stepping into their feminine, which is maybe strong boundaries, which are masculine, which help hold the feminine so you can relax more, spend more time in gentle self care, slowing down, not doing several things at once. And the longer we can spend in this state, or the more we can have optimized small pockets in this state, the cortisol starts to drop, the inflammation starts to drop, the progesterone levels can actually build back up in the body. And we need progesterone. I guess my point with that is we need enough progesterone to combat and calm down inflammation and cytokine storms that are caused by inflammation, and to actually manage some of the histamine reactions going on as well. So
Oh my God.
those are things that I often see just as a like intro kind of taster. We also need enough estrogen to combat inflammation, keep blood sugar regulated. A lot of women don't realize low estrogen causes high glucose, high insulin, high hemoglobin A1C. So I don't know where your sugars are at, but we are not freaking taught about any of this.
I am what you just described, and I won't go on a walk unless like my laundry is also going. Like I have to be so efficient. I very
Mm-hmm.
much validate myself by how many
Mm-hmm.
things I cross off my list. I
Yeah.
live in that state. I am on HRT, progesterone and estrogen.
Okay. Yep.
So just
Okay.
recently, that's been maybe like almost 2 months. I don't know how long that
Yeah.
takes, but I'm 44 and my mom was
Okay.
done with she was in menopause at 48. So I feel
Okay.
like I was
Yeah. So early.
rage early. And they were like, when I was
Yeah.
40, my doctor was like, it's too early. But I know that it's because they don't have a lot of information about HRT and the black box
Yeah.
warning. Now that's gone. I'm on it,
Yeah.
but I don't know how long it takes to really. I'm on estrogen and progesterone recently. But I do, it's
Okay.
all, I feel like my nervous system is just counteracting all of that because this is taking over because I
Yeah.
can't just calm the F down. And I like you saying breaking it down to smaller pockets, but like
Yeah.
it's very hard to me to just be, especially I think just now it's also like I'm managing two
Yeah.
houses
Yeah.
right now.
It's a
So
big
in any
deal.
kind
It's
of
a big
slow
deal.
down, I'm like, what can I knock off the list?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that that is what's keeping me in fight or flight and just
Yeah.
like, and I don't want to be that way, but I think the only way to talk to get me to stop is for me to realize this inflammation connection. Cause I was like, I stopped drinking, thought I would just not be bloated and
Yeah.
puffy anymore. I'm doing all the things and I sound like how I used to live. I'm doing all the things, all these other like
Yeah.
positive things that I'm doing. My nervous system
Mm.
is overriding all of that.
But that's the thing is like so celebrate the good things you're doing. And I get it because when we had incredibly noisy neighbors a few years ago that were waking us up like 5 times a night for a year and my sleep was trashed, we finally decided, okay, I think we need to move because this is the third time this has happened and I'm tired of my hormones going out of whack from people not caring, right? So we unexpectedly moved and bought a house and all like within 6 months and our sleep was a mess because they kept waking us up. And I'm like, I'm sorry, body. Like, I will honor you the best I can, but we also have time crunches and moving and renovating
Okay.
and all the stuff, right? So like you do the best you can through these seasons where there is unexpected circumstances or more stressful circumstances or deadlines that you don't have a choice of. And that's why I think it's a very supportive choice to be on the hormones. Is it bioidentical, like micronized oral progesterone and then an estrogen patch? What kind of
They're both
HRT are you
oral.
on?
They're both
Okay, they're both
oral.
oral. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that, having the support of that is incredibly important for you because a lot of women also don't realize you start perimenopause between 35 and 37. And so things potentially already at that point could have been starting to shift. And by the time women get into their 40s, if they haven't ever looked at their hormones, like stuff can just blow up in our faces, especially if hypervigilance or we have a past history of eating disorders and things like that. And
Okay.
so I think part of it is like compassion for yourself. You're going through a lot of changes right now. I do think a great opportunity will be to continue to explore and get curious about this hypervigilance and like break it down and clear it out of the way for you because that's going to give you the ultimate freedom. But right now, you meet yourself in the middle, right? And you got to understand one of the reasons why I'm either procrastinating or resisting like taking that time to just be is because my hormones are literally not in abundance enough of an like amount yet to support my neurotransmitters to actually make that feel safe for me. So that's
Okay.
part of it is we feel safe with the old behaviors, the old ways of being like the familiar. I'm like, no, this is too uncomfortable. There's too much going on. I need to stay over here. And then, of course, that will contribute to changes in our gut flora. We get bloated more easily. We stay puffy and the retention. And again, these are communications. I just don't quite feel as safe as I usually do. Like, can we take a few minutes and just breathe? And the last piece with this, why it's so difficult, is because you have a pathway wired in your brain that is like, we only walk if the laundry's on. We only do this if this is happening. We do this if this is happening. And so part of what we want to do ideally is we want to break that apart and go like, it is safe for me to go for a walk, whether or not laundry is going. It is safe for me to take 5 or 10 minutes and do some nervous system regulating tools that I love, whether or not this other thing is happening. Like, and for you to actually explore working through a little bit of the discomfort of that, because once you get a minute or two into it, you're going to feel so much more regulated and you're going to crave and desire to take that time for yourself. And then it's going to become non-negotiable. And you'll look back and go, wow, I'm so happy I looked at that and worked through that. But we don't want to throw you in the deep end while all these other changes are happening. It's like little bits and snippets. And then as your environment regulates more, you literally have a space to regulate more yourself. But the hormones will probably give it at least 3 to 6 months to start noticing a bigger shift. But yeah, sometimes you have to play around with dosing and things like that with it as
Okay.
well. But here's the other thing, and this isn't necessarily directed at you, but this is just in general. I think women have been so conditioned, like now that all the bioidentical hormones and stuff are really hitting, which it's great. I think it's been a long time coming. You cannot supplement or hormone replacement therapy your way out of dysregulated nervous system. You
You
cannot
cannot.
supplement or hormone replacement therapy your way out of hypervigilance or guilt or resistance around making yourself a priority. They can support, but it's not going to fully fix and balance your hormones and fix all of this if you do not deal with the people pleasing, the perfection, the all or nothing, the avoiding, slowing down. Like, it's just the honest truth.
Yes, I can attest to that. I'm the case study. It's like, and if I'm making
Yeah.
all these like efforts to supplement and do all these other things, it's like, then look at your nervous system. Why am I not looking at that as
Mm-hmm.
like something that
Mm-hmm.
I need to take HRT. You also need to take 5 minutes and chill out. Why don't I look at it the
Yeah.
same way that it could benefit me more? I want to get into histamines because that is,
Yeah.
I feel like I've always thought maybe this is a thing. I've tried to bring it up to a couple of people and they're kind of were like, either they weren't like informed on it, like they didn't want to go down there. I want you to first start with inflammation versus a histamine reaction. How do you
Yeah.
tell what is what?
Yeah, so I find inflammation is a longer term buildup. So a lot of people that have inflammation, it's come from years of a buildup of chronic pain getting worse or skin issues getting worse, eczema, psoriasis, rosacea. It is puffiness and swelling that's built up over time. So it's over years, usually, or decades. And with obviously, if you get an injury, you'll get inflammation in that area very quickly, but then your body is using that as a healer, right? That is where inflammation is a good thing. Where inflammation starts to become detrimental is this chronic accumulation where we're having these symptoms that are getting worse. We'll see things like C-reactive protein, which is an inflammatory marker on lab tests, show up high. And high, in my opinion, is above a 1. So into the 2s, the 3s. If you're above a 3, you got so much chronic inflammation in your blood. You need to like seriously look at that. And so with histamine is more of a chemical messenger, a chemical response that can happen within 15 to 20 minutes of getting exposed to whatever is going on. So for me, like you've heard me talk about in the podcast, there's certain things that I eat and they're very nourishing and healthy. But for me, still, because there's hypervigilance, I'm healing, I will get a histamine response. And so usually you'll eat something within even 10 to 20 minutes of consuming. You will have a reaction, whether your whole body feels warm and puffy, you feel flushed, you get a headache, you get a skin reaction. There's all kinds of symptoms that we can talk about. But essentially, it happens really quickly.
Okay.
And usually it resolves within 24 hours unless you keep stacking your histamine reactions and keep exposing yourself to whatever you're sensitive to. Um, but the interesting thing with histamine is it will contribute to inflammation. So if I keep causing myself to have a histamine reaction, I will accumulate a stressed out, nervous system, high cortisol, overwhelmed immunity, and I will fuel that chronic inflammation that I was just talking about via stacking in all this histamine buildup in the body and my body not having enough time to break it down and clear the excess out of the body. And once you have a histamine reaction, the next day is likely when you're going to feel the retention and the puffiness. Usually takes about 24 hours because the body's been like circulating and retaining more water because the body's like, this isn't safe. Like to some
Yes.
extent, we do have some histamine in the body, but for some women, they're overproducing. Um, but it's connected to the gut and the brain signaling. And that's why there's such a nervous system component to this. And, because some people say there's no way you can have inflammation in 20 minutes. I'm like, because it's histamine, it's a different
Yes.
connection. And, leaky gut flora issues, um, you know, just if your gut lining is inflamed. So if you feel bloated all the time, if you feel cramping or pain after you eat certain foods or just from stress, these things can all fuel histamine. We need an enzyme. We have an enzyme in the body called DAO, and a lot of women are low in that. And that will cause us to have bigger histamine flares, and it helps break down histamine in the gut. If
Okay.
your liver's overwhelmed, and this is why for you, because you're taking oral estrogen, I would suggest you're on a good liver supporter too, because
Mm.
otherwise, what ends up happening is when we have histamine, inflammation, we're gut stuff, hypervigilance, the body has a hard time metabolizing and breaking down excess hormones or a hormone that the body no longer needs. And then that hormone will actually just keep circulating in the body, and we can innocently end up with too high of estrogen, too high of vitamin D, too high of cortisol. So, making sure that the liver is properly supported and metabolizing and breaking down the estrogen and or detoxifying properly is incredibly important, and a lot of women just have really stressed out livers. um
Can I ask what that
too
is?
much.
What is a liver supporting supplement that I should be taking?
Yeah, so a really good one is called calcium D-glucarate. It specifically helps metabolize and break down excess hormones and things like that and help alleviate them out of the body. So that's a really good one. And then something with like milk thistle or dandelion,
Okay.
artichoke globe. Those are really good ones. But I often find women thrive most off of the one with like the things I just mentioned and the calcium D, because they both have
Okay.
different functions in the body. Calcium D really helps with like metabolizing cortisol and estrogen and things like that, because you don't want to end up with the too much buildup of estrogen in the body and then you go dominant, because high estrogen fuels histamine reactions. Trust me,
Perfect.
I've been there. And then again, the low progesterone fuels a higher chance of overproduction of histamine or more histamine reactions, because like I said earlier, we need enough of that to help calm the body down. So the more amped up the body is, the more hypervigilant we feel, the more the body is just going to actually release histamine, even if you're not eating something or you don't have an environmental allergy. It could be really poor
Mhm.
sleep, and you could be overproducing histamine from that because that's causing stress in the body. And then, of course, the trauma patterns. And I'll say one thing and then I'll pause, but what is deeper than the histamine is actually something called mast cell activation. So I'm happy to touch on that because it's
Please.
actually the activation of the mast cells that contributes to this more like hypervigilant immunity and then more production of histamine. And this is usually not talked about. So this is important. So these are immune cells that we have, and they're in the lungs, the skin. There's a lot of mast cells around our breasts, actually, and our armpits, the gut lining, in the brain. And so, what ends up happening is they store histamine and cytokines, which are inflammatory chemicals and other immune mediators. And so, we can have more, and that's sometimes why women feel more like tender, like a week before their period in their luteal, because that you're actually in a bit more of a reactive state with your mast cells, and you
Mhm.
are producing a little bit more inflammation to help get your period going in the uterine lining shedding. But essentially, what happens is when we're hypervigilant, when our nervous system is dysregulated, we have all this stuff going on that we've been talking about. Your mast cells actually overreact to even little things. So that's why, like, I eat tomato products. It could be organic, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then I have a histamine reaction because there's still that hypervigilance, that it's like subconscious hypervigilance that I'm healing, that is triggering my mast cells to react to this food that is so beautiful and nourishing. And then I end up getting warm and puffy, right? So it could be foods, it could be like things in the environment that could be like fragrances, chemicals, smells. It could be your environment. It could literally be you're going into like a place like the mall or a concert and you just literally get a histamine response because your system is just like, this is too much.
This happened to me. We just
Yeah.
got back from the beach and we
Okay.
go to this same area. It's just me and my 2 kids. So we're down there like playing in the ocean. My nose just starts running like a faucet. Like I was like water and my eyes were
Mhm.
burning and I was like, guys, something I don't know. I was like, it was so bad. I had to like go back up to I was getting Kleenex. I went back up to the pool, still kind of didn't feel good. I go get a shower. Go out to dinner. I'm fine. And then I kind of
Mhm.
forgot about it. The next day we get down to the beach, water out of my nose, my eyes, and I was like, my body was reacting, but I'm like, I wasn't. It was at the beach. It was like
Yeah.
salty air. My body reacted so badly. I had to go back up again, and the reaction went away as soon as I was back up from the beach. But it was this.
Mhm.
They're like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like I could not. It was just this reaction that came out of nowhere, and it happened again when I went to the same spot. Stopped immediately when we came back up to the
Mhm.
house, and I don't
Yep.
know, is that a common one that your nose just starts running like like it was just water and my eyes
Yeah.
were burning. I couldn't even open them. And as soon as I got out of the environment, it stopped.
Yep, 100%. So some women notice a lot of congestion and some notice a lot of like runniness and
Yes.
swelling because you can have histamine reactions. It can be the temperature, it could be the air, if it's more humid or not. It could be a certain smell that's in the air. Like we
Well,
can literally have histamine reactions to this. You can have a histamine reaction in a sauna, walking on a treadmill in a house versus being outside. Like it's stuff that you're like, what the
yeah.
heck? Like that makes,
It
but
made no sense.
literally it's
Yeah.
because your mast cells are reacting or overreacting to something that normally the body would not. And then the mast cells get activated and they're like dumping histamine, like dumping and inflammatory cytokines and all this stuff. And that's why you notice such an intense reaction in a certain environment, but then you shift your environment because your mast cells are not so reactive to that environment. And so this is, we can have all these kinds of reactions 100%, but that's one of the reasons why, because your system feels safer in certain environments than others. And
Yeah.
and while there's still hypervigilance, the body can be a little bit more finicky, but it can improve. It's just,
Okay.
again, this hypervigilance, which is causing the mast cells to become overreactive, which is dumping too much histamine. All of this is definitely, part of the connection that we're not taught about, in my opinion, really.
We aren't. And another connection was that I could have brought on this histamine reaction through my years of over consuming loads of ultra processed foods, which is exactly
Yep.
what I would binge and purge on. So I
Mhm.
could have created this histamine reaction, even though I don't do that anymore. It's like your
Yeah.
body remembers that this food is not safe.
Yeah, that can totally be a thing, but we can heal that. And I think
How?
I think so part of it is we look at the things first that feel the most safe and familiar to address. So it's like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I have a full understanding of what's going on hormonally in my body, and I'm going to support my hormones properly. So if you have high cortisol, getting on the proper support, supporting low sex hormones. If you have a thyroid issue, right? Like whatever's going on hormonally, we want to look at it and we want to make sure that your hormones are properly supported. I also think that something that women can start adding in if they're feeling like they're having a histamine reaction or they know that they do, you can get tested for it. I've seen like with neurotransmitters and stuff, it'll test histamine as well. But I think this is where we can actually get DAO, digestive enzymes, and have one with our meals to just start supporting and making sure that we're getting enough of that in the body. Like if safety means, okay, I'm going to add an enzyme, I'm going to make sure my hormones, I know what's going on with them so that I can manage them properly. And you're like, okay, I trust to know these things are being taken care of. Then we have more confidence or ability or capacity to go to maybe some of those things like, okay, and now maybe I'm feeling a bit better, but I'm noticing I have to really face this not taking the time for myself and not just slowing down and giving myself the time, right? Because that's what I noticed the biggest thing for me when I start sitting outside in the grass and getting my feet in the grass and getting daylight every day, it significantly calmed my histamine mast cell reaction down. My sleep improved. I released like 5 pounds of water. I wasn't even paying attention about my clothes and everything. And then you go to your doctor for your yearly physical, and she's like, "You lost 5 pounds, amazing." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" Like I've just been sitting on the grass trying to heal my histamine reaction. Like I don't really care about that, but whatever, right? So nature, because it heals oxidative stress and it grounds you and it regulates your nervous system and helps with your circadian rhythm. So it's like it could be the most simple thing that we
Yes.
could go and do that could help. And we want to heal our gut and see what's going on there. But the hypervigilance and the fear or guilt or resistance around slowing down and just taking time for ourselves, that is one of the most crucial pieces to look
Yes.
at. But that's why I said support your hormones first and like maybe start with the enzyme, because then you'll have more capacity to actually feel somewhat safe going into something uncomfortable versus if you just try to fly into all the discomfort without supporting your hormones, it's going to feel a lot more overwhelming.
I was going to ask you about the link between histamine and self trust and wrote down that histamine
Mm,
patterns are connected to a deep need for control, which is how I live my life on the daily.
yeah,
That is
totally.
oh, okay. Well, I'm shocked.
All of us, right? Like we've all been so conditioned to need control. And so, yeah, so
I,
when we need that control, there is some level of us that doesn't trust, that doesn't feel safe, that's dysregulated, or that doesn't feel good enough. And this could all be stuff from the past that again your body is still like looping in. Um, so part of it is okay. Well, why do I need control? What is that about? What are the pleasures and payoffs of getting control? And what would happen if I didn't and I let go and I surrendered and I kind of let life take the wheel?
I
Right.
want to
That's
do
kind of the
that.
first thing.
Like,
Yeah.
yes, I just feel like I need to know that things are handled. I guess being a single mom right now, I
Fair
need to
enough.
have a hand in every. I want to surrender. I just had a
Yeah.
manifesting person on yesterday, and she's like, "You just have to let go," and I'm like, "That sounds
It's
great,"
not that
but
easy.
it's not that easy. Yes, I feel like being disconnected from your intuition can also trigger a
Yeah.
histamine reaction. I don't live
Yeah.
in my body in like connection with
Yeah.
my body. I am in my head, in my brain, and thinking ahead in hypervigilance. So like
Mhm.
that is that is taking precedence over any kind of supplement I'm trying to do. I
Yeah.
need to look at that. And like you said, it's not that I know that I need to rationally, that's the answer. But
Mhm.
it's very hard for me. Like my shoulders are always up.
Mhm.
Like what's
Mhm.
happening now to just
Yeah.
sit back because then it's like what's like initially come to my head when you said what would happen. Like if I'm not doing it, who's going to do it? It's like me and my two kids. I don't have somebody
Yeah.
else in my life. So many things
Yeah.
are happening right now that I am in charge of
Yeah.
that I have to like my body's like we know we have to live like this, shoulders up, like knock these
Mhm.
things off your to-do list or who else is going to do it?
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think part of it is, like, acknowledging the reality of that and the truth to that, and then to be able to go, "And I can literally take 5 life-changing nervous system regulating breaths right now, and it will all still get done, and I will actually regulate to a deeper level and feel safer, and maybe I can start to feel my shoulders come down, or I can do a little bit of EFT tapping, which is literally gonna start to tell my brain I am safe, and start to tell my nervous system it is safe to come back into that rest and digest. So we start small, but it's actually being willing to challenge the ego that's going, no, it's all going to fall apart if you take the time. And it's like, I can take a minute. I
Yes.
can take a minute. I'm worth a minute. My body's worth a minute. If I want to start shifting this, I need to take a minute. Because once you start regulating, you do not, it's very rare that you will let things come in to like throw it all out the window again. Like when I start to feel mine go off, I'm like, what am I doing? Not doing that anymore, shifting because I am not willing to dysregulate myself to the place I used to be. It's just like a non-negotiable, right?
I
No
love
matter
that.
what's going on. And so but you have to get there and it has to feel familiar for you
That's what
to
it is.
protect it.
My baseline is hypervigilance, so my
Yeah,
body feels very safe there. My body
totally.
doesn't feels unsafe if I'm chilling. And there's like, "What
Yeah.
are you doing? Why are you sitting in the grass? Get up! Look at all the things on the list." That's
Yeah,
my safety
totally.
is how I
Yeah.
live now, which is
Yeah.
not serving me. And
Yeah.
I know that. So it's like
Mhm.
I know with your clients, you kind of map out what their body needs. So I was wondering, like, I don't know if we have time, but because this is like a
Yeah.
coaching thing, if you
Yeah.
could map out with me, which you kind of have been, you could kind of
Yeah.
show what other people would get from you, what kind of coaching, like just what you've heard from me,
Mhm.
what kind of path. I know you've said breath work, like 5 breaths. I think I can handle that. But like, how would you work with someone like me to kind of map
Mhm.
out what their body is lacking?
Yeah. So first off, I would want to like do a full hour health assessment and talk more about your health history. I would want to do a full workup of labs if you haven't had it done in the last 1 to 2 months. And
Mm,
see your cortisol, DHA, testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, see how your body's responding to the HRT, inflammatory markers, vitamins, minerals, cholesterol, like everything. Because
okay.
then we can also see more physical evidence in the body of how the hypervigilance is impacting your system and not to be like, shame on you, like you, this isn't good, but to be like, oh, interesting that these things are going on and they're correlated to the hypervigilance. So now that we have this information, we can use it as a loving reminder and motivator why your body so deeply wants you to rewire your nervous system to feel safer in the being and simple nurturing self-care practices and why staying in the safety zone of hypervigilance isn't serving you and that we do it in a slow mindful way so that it doesn't overwhelm your system. And then from there we would start discussing, okay, let's talk about 5 potential options for 5 to 10 minutes of self care for you, where you can really get into this calm, regulated state. And what will help quiet the ego, going, oh, you don't have time, or this isn't working, or you shouldn't be doing this, is you can acknowledge your ego and go, thank you for your opinion. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, but I'm doing this differently because your ego will never be like, take the time, you deserve it, it will always encourage the negative and or the old and the suffering because it thrives off your suffering. And your ego is your wounded inner child. So we have to go, okay, what's going on with your inner child that needs some love and attention? And you can spend one of those 5 to 10 minute windows even checking in with her and seeing what she needs to help her feel safe and more accepting to taking this time to slow down. So that's another potential option. But learning how to manage your ego and really learn how to take your power back from it is going to help calm the hypervigilance, because as long as we let the ego call the shots, we will continue usually to stay in the old behaviors that
Yes.
don't serve us or the old ways of being. And we have to also have compassion at the same time because this is like deep
It
rooted.
thinks it's protecting us. It's
Yeah,
like,
it thinks it's
"No, this is
protecting
not
us.
good for us."
Yeah.
You know what it was saying when you were talking about ways to slow down? The ego my ego makes me believe that it will better serve us to
Hmm.
knock more things off the list because then we can calm down, and that's how I live. Like,
Yeah.
if I want to watch it, it's almost like I have to earn it. If I wanna watch a show and can be
Yeah.
completely present and watch it, I have to get everything off the list, and my ego is like, "No, if you get this off the list, you'll feel better at the end of the day because it's no longer
Hmm.
looming."
Hmm.
That I
Hmm.
look at it as it serves me to be able to calm by taking every minute to knock off another thing, because then at the end of the day, I'm chill. And if I took 10 minutes to sit in the grass when I could have knocked 2 things off the list,
Hmm.
that's not serving me. That's how I
Right.
live. It really is serving me because
Yeah.
then it's off the list and I can go to bed at peace. Like
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
how I'm
But
running
part
things.
of, yeah. And then part of there was challenging the all or nothing with the list because the point we actually want you to get to is where you can knock some things off the list, but you can also be in full surrender and acceptance for the things that didn't get taken off the list, knowing there's always tomorrow and there's always another time.
There's always going to be
Um,
more things though tomorrow,
there's
Amber. There's going to
Yeah,
be more things. So
100%.
I
And
got to
so it's
knock
like,
off
what's
these.
more important? You want to heal your
Yeah.
hypervigilance and you want to heal
Yeah.
your histamine? What is it costing you to stay in that mentality? And you can
Yes.
stay there. But if you really
No.
want to shift it, it's going to be starting to break this apart in small, bite sized pieces and go, I'm going to go take the 10 minutes. because it's going to regulate me. It's going to improve my cell health. It's going to help my immune system calm down, my mast cells calm down, which is going to help my histamine calm down, my gut, my hormones. Like that in itself, to me, is one of the most powerful things any woman can do to help with all of the things I just mentioned. And the more you do it, you're going to notice how much better you feel. And
Yeah.
you're like, non-negotiable. I am not letting anything get in the way of this. So that's why it's like starting to challenge and catch the part of you that's like, no, but listen, there's always, of course, there's always going to be more things. There's always going to be more things, but it is for you to get to this place where it's like, I did enough. I am enough.
Yes.
Time for this time, because I think there's probably a part of you that's tying your worth to how much you do rather than it
A
being if you
hundred
feel in any
percent.
moment. So there's a self-worth piece to build, and you
Yes.
will never fully build that if you're just so busy chasing, crossing things off your list.
Exactly
Yeah.
how I validate. Look at this,
Yeah.
all crossed off. You're a shit
Yeah.
mom. There's two things still that have to be moved to the next day. You made me think of something else I learned from you, like just being like softer with yourself and curious versus
Yeah.
reactive. Like you say, isn't it interesting? Like
Mhm.
when you feel like a limiting belief coming on, like approach it with curiosity versus
Mhm.
reactiveness, I think you say. And you just
Yep.
did it when you were talking. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah, it's
Like,
okay. It's all a learning opportunity, right? And the other thing, give your progesterone some time to build up, because it's really hard to get into self-trust if you don't have enough progesterone. We actually
no,
need progesterone to help trust our bodies and
that is a
ourselves.
word that has come up so many times that I didn't even have it in my notes, and I'm learning so much
Mhm.
from you. There were two more things I wanted to ask you about, like in a
Mhm.
coaching standpoint. I feel like you've said this before. If you notice your heart racing after meals,
Mhm.
I do. Like I'll have dinner
Mhm.
and I'm like, why am I 100 miles an hour? I'm just sitting here. And so
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, what brings that on?
Histamine. Yeah, totally. So whether it's after meals, some women notice it after workouts. So this is where, with the estrogen that you're taking, I don't know if this started before the estrogen or since you started taking it, but because our estrogen levels fluctuate so much in perimenopause, um, we can have more of a flux, like your body could produce in a period of producing more, and then you're also supplementing with it. And that could be what ramps it up maybe a little too much, hence the liver support to metabolize and make sure you're clearing out excess so you don't have the buildup, because that could trigger the histamine. And then the other
Okay.
thing is your body is going, okay, we're nourished. Now we need the energy to digest. But because there's so much fight or flight and hypervigilance, like, where do I distribute my energy? Is it to digest, or are we gonna have eight more
Yeah.
things we now have to do? It's almost like your body's like bracing, like, oh, like,
Yeah.
can we just do one thing? Right. And if your cortisol's up, and I'd be curious where your thyroid's at, but just these things will totally
Normal.
impact our heart rate. I would, I always challenge the normal status quo because the
Well,
ranges
I
are
will
too
say
big.
when I was heavier and bloated and puffier than this, I would always be like, check my thyroid. I would want them to be like, it's your thyroid. And they'd be like, thyroid's great. And I'm like, it's not that. I
Yeah.
always wanted that to be the answer. She said it was
Fair
all
enough.
in normal range, like TSH, whatever, like all the things.
Yeah.
You're right. They'd only test a certain thing. So I didn't go like an in depth thyroid panel, but they were like,
That's
everything
okay.
was normal. Cholesterol was slightly elevated.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, no, the normal ranges are too big on lab testing, and there's a much smaller functional range that's actually normal, that's why I say that.
Okay.
If cholesterols are elevated, like your total cholesterol, your LDL, those are signs of, again, poor liver function, metabolizing and breaking down cholesterol. The liver's having a hard time doing that. And the more
Okay.
inflamed, or histamine, or high cortisol, high estrogen, low estrogen, those things can all cause, again, the troubles metabolizing and breaking down. So this comes back to nervous system regulation, which the dysregulation spikes the inflammation, spikes the histamine, and it makes the liver and the gut more sluggish. And that's why we feel more puffy.
Gosh, it's all making sense. Other thing I
Yeah.
learned from you, and for me specifically, I wake up at 1 a.m. right around.
Mm,
I know you have certain times that you wake up mean
yeah.
certain things. Can you
Yeah.
share those time frames and what they're
Yeah.
telling us? Okay.
100%. So if you're having trouble falling asleep, primarily it is your cortisol is too high at bedtime. Naturally, cortisol should be lowest at bedtime. However, if we're stimulated or just dysregulated, chronic stress, cortisol will stay up, and that suppresses melatonin, which is your sleep hormone. So we want cortisol low so melatonin can come up and help us fall and stay asleep. Also, trouble falling asleep can be low progesterone. We need enough progesterone because it's the calming hormone, and enough GABA, which helps us fall and stay asleep. Now, with waking, I find the midnight realm is usually cortisol. As we get into that kind of like 1 to 2, it's the gallbladder. 2 to 3 is the liver. The 1 to 4 window, though, can also be low progesterone and blood sugar imbalance, which so many women have blood sugar ups and downs. And then 3 to 4 is more of a thyroid window. So if you're finding yourself waking during these different times, this is some of the reason why. And so we want to, again, further investigate. So I often say, like, disconnecting from technology 30 to 60 minutes before bed, wear orange blocking glasses in the evening if you can. It will help you fall asleep a lot more quickly. Making sure you're not snacking right before bed unless you actually physically need a snack or there's something going on with your blood sugar. Otherwise, that can cause the waking in the middle of the night. You also need to eat enough carbs with your supper and protein and fat, or you can be awake in the middle of the night as well. So just some like innocent things to like shift, but those are the waking times, and it's not fun. Trust me, I've been there.
No.
So yeah.
No. Should we be doing lymphatic drainage?
Yes, women should
How?
be because yeah, everyone has sluggish lymph. So hot and cold showers,
Okay.
30 seconds of cold, back to a minute of warm, ease into it so you get used to it. I don't suggest cold plunging unless your cortisol is normal. Um, Dry brushing, so brushing from the ankles up to the groin, clockwise circles around your abdomen, up your arms into your armpit, even gentle massage of your breasts. You can get a lymph cream and massage into your breasts at bedtime. I suggest every woman do that for good breast hygiene.
Okay.
But we need to get our lymph moving because all the hormone imbalances I've essentially mentioned to you, plus sluggish thyroid, will slow our lymph down.
Okay.
Hypervigilance, histamine, inflammation all slow our lymph down. And then we feel more swollen and puffy. So you could be retaining up to 20 pounds of water because your lymph is stuck. Your lymph is your garbage removal of the body. So legs
Okay.
against the wall, 5 minutes gently rebounding on a trampoline, a walk, infrared sauna. These are some lymphatic massage. These are some of the easiest ways to move your lymph.
I saw some like drops, like that you put in your
Oh,
water, lymphatic draining. I don't know if they're do anything,
they
but
kind of work. I find the actual like practices do
okay.
work better, but you
Great.
could try that too. But I think sometimes what we have to be mindful of is there's a supplement for everything.
Yeah, right. Okay. That's good. That's all you have to say. Okay. Just
Yeah.
wonder what you thought. But I do have a dry brush. This has been everything I wanted it to be, so much more
Yay.
than I could have asked for. If someone wants to work with you or just know more about what you offer, where can they go? Talk about that.
Yeah, I'm glad. It was honestly such a good chat. So my website is amberapproved.ca. I have a free hormone quiz and a free emotional eating quiz if you're wondering if you're struggling with either of those, and you're going to get some great free resources after you take them. If you want to connect to explore support, hormone testing, all the things we've talked about here, you can book a 30-minute complimentary body freedom consultation. It's via Zoom, and I connect with women all over the world. So that is also there. And the podcast is called the No Sugar Coating Podcast. So if you loved our chat today, you will love the podcast. And it's available on every podcast app, the website. And I'm on social media, Instagram primarily. My name is at Amber Romaniuk, Romaniuk.
And your podcast is fantastic. I listen to a
Thank
lot of them getting
you.
ready to talk to guests. So I'm saying
Yeah.
that and I mean it. Let's end it with what is the one thing that you want to make sure a woman who listened to our conversation takes with her today?
Mm. Give yourself grace and compassion. Be patient with the time you take on your healing journey and be willing to step into the discomfort and challenge it because it will completely change your life and your health and all these things that keep flaring up and reacting in your body. It'll shift it.